of course, we're going to get into what's the topic of the day, which is going to be the topic of many, many days to come, unfortunately, because it's only going to get worse. But one of the topics that we want to cover before we get to our wonderful guest, David Griscom, for the first time from Left Reckoning, which will be fun, because I got a bone to pick with a number of people, and he'll be a good person to talk about that with. You know, we've talked a lot about one of the biggest problems that we see in our political arena, which I think doesn't get nearly enough attention. And that is the fact that we do have what is known as the political consultant class, or as Jen likes to say, the white-collar carny class, because that's what these guys are. They are not in this for an ideology, for a cause.
I call them white-collar campaign carnies.
Or white-collar campaign carnies, sure. Take that. But they are... and for those of you who are wondering what this is all about, okay, I'm just going to get to this really quick.
It's so, and nobody will.
You know what this is? It's the sound of the smallest violin playing the quietest tune. So for Halloween, and I did go out last night for a little bit.
Okay.
I was Mr. Pink from Reservoir Dogs, and that was a lot of fun.
I'm so glad you got to live your dream and do that.
Don't tell me your freaking name. So this is the last time you're going to see this facial hair. This facial hair is going away.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know. It doesn't. Well, listen, I don't really like it to begin with because it just doesn't look right on me, and it's kind of this funny.
It's
fuzzy
not.
feeling.
You're not hairy enough to really grow it.
No,
full,
I can't. Listen,
and I know.
I'm actually 40, but I still grow hair like I'm a teenager. Like I can't to grow this that you see here. This took like 3 weeks.
I know. I've been suffering. I feel like I've been suffering through this for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I will be glad to see it go, and I'm sure it will be accommodated by a facial and a roller and your whole thing.
One big difference between me and Steve Buscemi is that I do tip. I don't believe in tipping because, you know, unless your service is like well above and beyond, and of course, I would imagine Mr. Pink doesn't support the labor class. We support the labor class. So that's important.
Did you wear a pink suit?
I did not wear a pink suit, but I let everybody know I'm Mr. Pink.
You should have at least been wearing a pink tie.
Yeah, I could have done that, but
I'm just saying.
Limited.
Yeah.
So as we were saying, you know, the white-collar campaign carny class is a very big problem, and no bigger example can we give you than Steve Schmidt. So for those of you who obviously know who Steve Schmidt is.
Which I didn't.
Yeah. Well, no, you knew who he was.
No, I didn't know who he was. You told me who he was because most people don't know these things.
So the fact is, Mr. Schmidt was the campaign manager for John McCain when he ran for president back in 2008. And he is the person who also selected Sarah Palin to be Mr. McCain's vice president. So you already have an idea right off the bat, 15 years ago, mind you, of what this guy's all about and what he, you know, his political judgment is so far off. And yet today he has on the low end of the bar a net worth of over $10 million. Now, what exactly?
Right. And this was the genius that brought us Sarah Palin.
Mm-hmm. So what exactly this guy did to deserve such accolades is no different than what you would say about somebody like Rick Wilson. If you go back and you look at the messaging, the things that these guys have said over the course of many years, everything is catered towards how am I going to get my next big payday by grifting my way through the political arena. Think of Neera Tanden on the Democratic Party side.
I'd rather not.
Even think of somebody like Karl Rove.
Oh, I definitely don't want to think of
Karl Rove. These are the types of people that we're talking about.
I hate talking about these people.
Steve Schmidt recently went on one of the local big podcast, or I should say the biggest local podcast that we have here in South Florida, Patrick Bet David, PBD, Valuetainment. And one of the conversations that was being discussed was Ukraine and Russia, and then ultimately Israel-Palestine. And watching that type of a talking head knee-jerk react to everyone as a sexist, an anti-Semite, a racist, it's all the same talking points. And yet somehow this guy, this grifting schmuck, is the campaign manager of Dean Phillips, who's now running in the Democratic primary against Biden and Marianne Williamson?
Well, but it sounds right, because this does not sound like somebody with good judgment. So it makes sense that he would be running a campaign with extremely flawed judgment.
You can imagine what his payday is going to be like, too, because let's face it, that's what it's all about.
Well, yeah, they're just trying to have an income. Well, I don't know that that's why Dean Phillips is in it, but anybody working for this is just wanting to get their payday because they don't have a campaign to be on right now. But what's worse, though, is that this is happening within the party that I'm thinking about people who have no idea that the campaign manager of this guy is the same person who is McCain's campaign manager. Like, people really have no idea that these are chameleons.
I don't even know if you would call them chameleons at this point. I would consider them to be pretty transparently horrible.
Right. No, I just mean they can change color. They're red or blue. They don't care.
Wherever the money.
Right. They're mostly
100%.
just green.
That's why you hear. That's why
not good green.
Roger Stone, Kellyanne Conway. They're all out there. They all are looking for their money. That's the bottom line.
It's gross.
So here's a clip of the best of Mr. Steve Schmidt
of Mercury Public Affairs, and leads the firm's operation in California. He is known as one of the top political strategists in the country. He managed the Schwarzenegger campaign, of course, in 2006. The New York Times referred to it as particularly remarkable, given that the governor appeared to be all but finished just 6 months ago. Before the Schwarzenegger campaign, Schmidt served as a member of the White House senior staff, as deputy assistant to the president and counselor to the vice president.
But over 5 months have passed since the election, and in gratitude for your contributions to our party and out of concern for its future success, I appreciate this opportunity to share a few thoughts with you today about the direction our party takes as it seeks to recover the support and the trust of the American people. To state the obvious, the Republican Party needs to grow.
Pain through the prism that we're on a trajectory to lose, that it was the worst environment that a Republican candidate's ever had to run for the presidency in, and our job was to try to figure out how to win. I was in the middle of the Bush campaign in 2004, which was a tough but 50-50 race. This was a race where we had to have an intercession. We needed an event to take place. We needed to take risks.
Roughly up to a week before the convention, we were still talking very seriously about Senator Lieberman, but we had always believed that in order for that to work, it would have to be a total surprise. We would have to go out and sell it to conservatives who would be against it and try to convince them that this would give us our best chance for victory.
How did you pivot then from Joe Lieberman to Sarah Palin?
When we were looking at how to win the fall campaign, and we always believed it was an uphill struggle, we were running against a historic candidate who was a very good candidate.
Well, he all but declared Fox News to be American state TV. Extraordinary. Secondly, with regard to CNN International, with people who live in autocratic countries, who live behind a veil of totalitarianism, CNN International, they thirst for that news coverage because it's a truth to them. It speaks to what's happening in the world and all of its cruelty, its injustice, but also the magnanimity, the hope that comes from the notion of free people.
I have to come on here. I want to let you know that he ran my campaign back in 2006.
I don't
job.
like it because you make Arnold sound like, I don't know, like if Arnold and like Shrek had a baby.
Listen, we're able to bring together the Republicans and Democrats that came together. We had this great team, and this guy, Steve Schmidt, he was my guy.
Ugh, he's gross.
He's a terrible guy. And
he's just gross.
The fact that he's from New Jersey and he talks that way. When he was talking in that press conference, it sounded like he was just trying to split him. He couldn't decide whether he was on the West Coast or in the Deep South. But he was like trying to mend it together somehow, but it didn't make any sense.
It's not good.
And on top of everything else, the guy's a loser. Everything he touches turns to dust. Everything. But he just happened to have been, and it wasn't like he was on this Schwarzenegger campaign where he had this amazing victory. He was on he was running the incumbent. And at the time, he was pretty popular. Now, of course, that all went to hell in his second term, but that's neither here nor there. The point being is that
it was due to no success on his part.
Well, think of it this way. James Carville, for some reason,
another
is still
one.
revered as a political consultant, even though that guy hasn't won a political race in over 3 decades. So, you know, you can kind of just live off of your past
Don
success.
Shula effect.
It's the Don Shula effect.
I
yeah.
call it the Don Shula effect.
It really stinks that it's that way, but Schmidt is the embodiment of that problem. And the fact that the Lincoln Project in 2020 was able to bring in millions of dollars, we're Republicans who are against Donald Trump. And yet there's like a Republicans for Trump big account on Twitter in particular, and they're fawning over Joe Biden. It's like, come on, how do you guys not see through this crap? This is just about making money.
They're all the same.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.